Zombies, the good old classical undead creature. The term zombie can be earliest tracked up to 18 centuries from West African mythology. But first, where is West Africa? West Africa is the westernmost region of the African continent, bordered by the Atlantic Ocean to the west and south, the Sahara Desert and Sahel to the north, and Central Africa to the east. There are many villages that have its own unique traditions, passed down through generations, are deeply rooted in culture and nature. One of the tradition is by using spirits, ancestors, to explain the world, forming their unique religion. Voodoo, a form of religious witchcraft, who later became related to zombies, was one of the religion that deeply rooted in the area. Its name comes from the language Vodou in the local, which means gods and spirits. This makes sense as one defining feature of African mythology is its connection to ancestors. Far before voodoo is broadly accepted as an African religion, it suffers from extremely negative stereotypes created by Western, such as the use of voodoo doll used for curses, a waking of evil spirits, and using black magic. During colonial times, authorities considered it a dangerous form of witchcraft. In 1797, a French slave owner published an extensive description of Saint-Domingue, including several pages on voodoo, claims that it can turn into a more terrible weapon. He warned of the certain magnetism of voodoo dance, which was so powerful that even white people were forced to dance. Even most of the educated Haitian elites actually had dislike for voodoo. They viewed voodoo as a barbaric practice that hindered progress in civilization. Zombies, specifically Haiti zombie, where they are seen as revived corpse by using voodoo, the term zombie originates from the French word for dead spirit. It began in Haiti. This was due to mass importation of West African labor. According to non-complete statistics, French slave trade transported approximately 13,000 Africans as slaves to the French West Indies, as well as Saint-Domingue each year. This is a major cause that voodoo is able to culturalize in Haiti. Besides, zombies was originally a reflection of the horrors of slavery. A person can never rest, with no soul or free will, forced to labor for eternity. Mainly reflects the primal fear of being enslaved forever, a fate that is worse than death. This makes sense because back in 17th and 18th century Saint-Domingue, the 17th century Haiti was the French colony, being notorious for its slave-based sugar and coffee plantations. It's so notorious that enslaved African are forced to labor until death. Death was sometimes imagined as the only escape. Some suggested this is related to the financial burden of French. In order to show this, we would have to back on time where after France suffered from the 7 Years' War. The 7 Years' War begins by the conflict of France and Britain among the colonies between India and NA. After the war ended, France suffered by losing vast amounts of its colonies. Also, the heavy war debts has led France to huge financial burden. Aside notes, this massive national debt later became a major cause of the French Revolution. At this point, Saint-Domingue, one of the few remaining colony, were heavily relied on, with its great exploitation on slavery production, was forcibly brought hundreds of thousands of West Africans. According to non-governmental statistics, in 1681, there were only 2,000 slaves in Saint-Domingue, but by 1789, there were almost 500,000, which serves up to 90% of the population. The cheap cost of importing labors quickly led to more extreme and brutal slavery, including extreme workload. The mortality rate among enslaved people was extremely high, and many died prematurely due to disease, overwork, and mistreatment. In just a few years, Saint-Domingue has become the world's richest due to its brutal slave-based sugar and coffee plantations, relying heavily on imported African slaves after native populations were decimated. Perhaps needing to express the fear of being slaved, this could either means the mental fear to the cold-blooded French with its absolute authority, physical fear of suffer from physical punishments, leaving deep wounds and scars, uncertainty that whether he could go back to his home country, and the desire for freedom, and by freedom I mean the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved, in such a way that human is regarded as the property of a person. They left out a complete counter-image as cultural fear, zombie, a monster that works for their owner forever without rest. This means, number one, this monster is awake by Bokor, which means slave drivers in Caribbean, matches to their mental fear of the cold-blooded French owner. In case if you're interested in what is Bokor, I've linked into the description. Number two, this monster never speak and attack, absolutely obey to the owner, showing their physical fear and trauma that have to suffer from. Number three, this monster is being brutally slaved forever and never rest. This matches the fear that cannot go back to their home country and meet the family forever, also known as socially death, which the context is a lot different other than feeling cringe. It means when a person is treated as non-existent or stripped of their social identity. Sociologist Orlando Patterson, known for his work on the history of race and slavery, who's currently holds the John Cowles Chair in Sociology at Harvard University, in his 1982 book Slavery and Social Death, defined it as the condition of being treated as less than fully human by society. This comes often with violence, ignorance, punishment in context of slavery. So the zombies can be viewed as reflection of deep colonial violence and the lived reality of enslavement. So does such a zombie like this exist? What do science say about this? Some suggest that in Haiti, a lot of zombie myth comes from the witches by poisoning the victims or frequent contacts addictive substance to make the victim appear insane or crazy, giving the visual of false death. So, what is this mythical substance that turned human into zombies? Dr. Nathan Klein's Zombie Project in the 1980s might answer your questions. He requested Dr. Wade Davis that traveled through Haiti at the request of Dr. Nathan S. Klein with the motivation to discover what causes Haitian zombies. During his research in Haiti, Davis observed and even took part in Vodou secret society ceremonies. He was even able to obtain the formula for the mixture within 2 weeks on one of his visits and bring it back. He discovered the fact that Bokor did use zombie powder. Davis set off and collected 8 samples of this zombie powder in 4 different regions of Haiti, found out all of them contains 4 common animal ingredients. Number 1, it contains any or more species of pufferfish, often containing a deadly neurotoxin called tetrodotoxin that induces a state of complete paralysis, extremely low metabolic levels, and retention of complete consciousness. Just at around 1 to 2 milligrams of tetrodotoxin is able to kill an adult. It is so lethal that currently there is no specific antidote for tetrodotoxin poisoning. Number 2, Bufo marinus, or cane toad, also produces numerous toxic substances that have pain-killing effects and can potentially kill. The toad's venom's 3 main components are biogenic amines, bufogenine, and bufotoxins. Bufotoxins is mainly known high toxicity. Slighter ingestion or contact may cause poisoning and affect the cardiovascular and nervous systems, and was banned among countries. As medic breakthrough, modern medical research uses components of this toad venom to develop drugs for the treatment of heart failure. Number 3, a hyla tree frog produces an irritating substance. These ingredients are all used to hallucinate victims to make them appear false death. However, this next ingredient was believed by voodooists as critical material, which is number 4, human remains. Despite the research seems convincing, it still sparks some controversy. For example, many scientists claim that there was either no or little tetrodotoxin in the samples of zombie powder that Davis collected. In further experiments with the zombie powder on rats, scientists criticized the results such that the powder was not pure and some other drug may have been added. Overall, the Haitian zombie remains an image of a victim that suffers from enslaved forever. It hungers for freedom and reminded us what colonial power can do to human in the history.